Moving on, Vikrant Neogi. Are you here, Vikrant? He's a practice lead, customer intelligence at SAS. He's responsible for MarTech data and analytics business portfolio across multiple industry verticals. Vikrant is passionate about applied analytics in marketing and works closely with customers to support their CX, CDP, and digital transformation programs. He's here to talk about hyper-personalization. Level up your customer experience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Vikrant.
Thank you. You want a clicker?
You're welcome.
Is the clicker? All right. Hakuna Matata, I think that was a very tough act to follow. So thank you, MarTech Vibe, for giving me this slot. I'm Vikrant. I am part of SAS's customer intelligence practice. As you can imagine, SAS is a MarTech solution provider. That's why we are here. And many of you may not know us. We've been the largest privately held software company in the world, and we have been in this region for almost 20 years. So what I'm going to talk about is hyper-personalization. And my objective of this 14.26 minutes that I have is to give you a little bit of takeaways that you can probably leverage in your day-to-day marketing ops, new age capabilities that you want to look at, right? So let's start up with what is personalization and what is hyper-personalization, right? Many of you as brand marketeers, as acquisition organizations are looking at already some bit of personalization. What kind of target groups you want to reach out to, what kind of messages that you want to push. So you've been doing personalization for quite a while, right? And as per what I hear from some of our customers, that has been pretty much maxed out. So how do you take it to the next level? How do you take it to hyper-personalization? And what do I mean by this? To give you a simple example, let's say you want to target a male born in 1948, raised in the UK, married twice, lives in a castle. This data was available in those golden age of third-party data. I don't think you'll be able to get this anymore. Wealthy and famous, right? And this name pops up, Prince Charles. And this is the persona you would be targeting if you want to reach out to HNI clients for banking products or for telco solutions or for retail market products, right? But what about this guy who's also has the same attributes? He's also, exactly the same as Prince Charles. Would you be sending the same offer, message, promotion to this particular individual? So that's where the concept of hyper-personalization becomes important. It's not about personas anymore. It's about the people you want to reach out to. How can you send unique messages, promotions, offers to the Prince of UK, to the Prince of Darkness, as he was called when he was part of Black Sabbath, right? So this is what I wanted to kind of set the context. Next, just a few metrics I want to talk about is what does this concept mean? How does Gartner define it, right? It looks at a relevant individualized interaction designed to enhance the experience between two individuals. So this could be the brand giving it to a customer, right? And we've seen it's not a hype anymore. So many customers that we work in this region and globally, we've seen tremendous results in how hyper-personalization has helped. And throughout the rest of the time, I'm going to talk about key 4 areas that you would want to look at when you want to embark upon this journey, right? So we've seen tremendous return on investment. We've seen excellent adoption rates, higher conversion rates, simply because you're able to reach the person at the right time in the same context as the person is in, right? So how do you get from personalization to hyper-personalization? How can you send Adam, Anne, and John the same message regarding a particular smart saving product, but with a different creative, different messaging that is tailored to that individual? And that's where we want to get at as an organization, that as a brand, right? And of course, this can be also extrapolated to the Prince Charles and Ozzy Osbourne example. How can you give them the different messages based on what you want to communicate to them, right? So the key pillars that I'm going to deep dive into today are 4 areas that are important. So as marketers, when you want to embark upon this journey, these are the 4 things that you should think of, right? Now, when I talk about always on machine learning, right? So when you think about it, today you have, let's say 2 million customers, 5 million customers, and you are giving offers or segments to 100,000 segments. But when we want to reach a scale of 1:1, you're talking about 2 million unique offers to every individual at every touch point, which could be possibly today or every day. Now, how do you achieve that? Without machine learning and AI ML automated in place, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to be able to reach that scale. So that's number one. Second is on individual next best experiences. What I would urge our customers and what I would urge you to look at is not just offers, not just products, because your customer journeys have changed. Many of my colleagues who came before me talked about customer experience and how things are no longer about products. It could be about education, it could be about advice, it could be about actions that a person needs to take with a brand. That's where next best, individualized next best experiences come in. And then personalized content. I'll talk about how content also needs to be automated from a personalization standpoint. And lastly, continuous testing. I think this becomes a very important aspect as you look at driving scale in your hyper-personalization journeys. You need to focus on how can testing be already embedded into the process so that as marketers, as you reach much higher scale, this automatically corrects any kind of issues that would come up in hyper-personalization that you're looking at, right? So always on AI ML, what do I mean by this? Today, a lot of you marketers, I think in the first panel session, some of our peers were saying that they have been doing a lot of rule-based marketing. I have created rules, I'm sending out campaigns, I'm sending on offers and promotions, right? This is the space we live in all today. AI is there, partly embedded in your MarTech stack. It could be lookalike modeling, it could be RFM, it could be customer lifetime value in bits and pieces. This is the way the world as is. But when you look at moving to hyper-personalization, this needs to scale up exponentially. We're talking about 80 to 90% AI automated and rules going down to 10 to 20%. And that's when you'll be able to deliver these experiences to your customers and your consumers, right? How do we do that? I'll be talking about a case study next, but essentially we're looking at all different touch points. We're looking at essentially the real-time data, real-time context about a customer's behavior in the past or similar customers' behavior in the past. And at that point of interaction with me or as a brand, I want to send them the right offer or message, right? So this involves a lot of AI and analysis of past data to arrive at a point in time to say, this is the next message or this is the next offer I need to present to you. So I'm going to talk about a case study where we did it for a GCC bank, where we did for a cross-sell of a credit card, right? And you can relate to it. We are all consumers of credit card in this room, right? So what we did is we took this as a project to say, let's go back half a year in history, so 26 weeks in history, and we collect all the attributes of different touch points. So this could be ATM withdrawals, this could be banking online transactions, this could be calling a call center, this could be any kind of touch point that a customer has with the brand. And we prorated this at each week snapshot for the past 26 weeks. And then we charted out journeys. What drives a person to a credit card conversion? Is it the salary coming on day one, spending 50% on essentials and grocery, or spending on school education? And that's when I decide to take a credit card. What pushes a person to take that decision is what we wanted to find out as a part of this, right? So we deployed, something called as recurring neural networks from a machine learning standpoint into the platform to understand this. So as you can imagine, Pareto principle, we had analyzed hundreds of journeys, but there were only 32 journeys that resulted in almost 78% of the conversions. So if a brand can find out these journeys and focus on them, I can now make sure I'm driving future conversions to this tune based on the data that I have. We analyzed and found out micro segments of people who are high plastic converter users or cash crunch people who don't have the cash or digital consumers. And those people, how do they navigate this journey differently? And how can I personalize this for that individual, right? And then finally, we deployed it in real time. So essentially, as people come and transact, I'm going to look at all the historical behavior, trends, similar audiences. And at that point of interaction, I'm going to give them a right offer, right? This resulted in almost 8x conversions of credit cards for this particular brand, right? Which is phenomenal result. Of course, there was a lot of analysis in depth, but as you want to scale and move to a space of hyper-personalization, this is what is also required, right? Moving on, individual NBXs. So I mentioned this in the beginning. We no longer want to just send them offers and products, just to push marketing. We want to send them best retention advice, best education advice, best activation advice, best usage hint, And when we want to reach a point when we are doing this for our consumers, it's a question of next best what, next best information that or next best action I want a consumer to take, right? So I know sometimes there are challenges in organizations because there is a marketing acquisition team, there is a CVM team, there is probably a digital marketing team, and everyone has different KPIs, maybe a customer experience team, and everyone has different KPIs around this. But more and more I'm seeing a lot of large brands having a customer experience officer, right, or CXO to drive all these KPIs as a single point of contact, right? Of course, there needs to be certain organization changes, and we understand that, but this is where customers or consumers expect it from you as a brand. They expect you to be personalizing their experience at every single touch point. The third aspect is personalized content. So I think a lot of times we get into the mode of understanding what offer or product makes sense, but we never pay a lot of attention to the actual creative or the message, the content that goes in. And if you think about it, all of this is also metadata and data that can be used to analytically arrive at the right creative or message or content that needs to be presented, right? This is sometimes a lot of customers take this a little later in the journey of hyper-personalization, but this is another aspect which I would want you to think about in terms of how can you, automate this whole process of what creative content works best, what kind of, messaging, title, headline, call to action button, color of the call to action button can be automated. So you can run multiple hypotheses, multiple tests on scale for all your 20 million customers in a few hours, right? That's the scale that we want to get to when we talk about hyper-personalization. The next aspect is, and the last aspect, around continuous testing. So now, the other challenge that, and you need to be cognizant of that, is when we introduce a lot of analytical models per se into the fray, there are sometimes biases, right? So you have a customer who is probably, or customers who are, one particular product has been giving you the highest conversion, and that gets delivered the most on all channels. So naturally the conversion keeps going up, and then automatically you start thinking that, hey, this is probably the best offer or creative that I have. So there needs to be a room for exploration in addition to exploitation of the offers and messages that you're giving. So building this mechanism of testing into the analytical process allows you to do, put underrepresented cases, right? So new products who not been doing, chances of success are 3%, automatically the system should push these offers in so that you can test them out, test the hypothesis that whether your champion offer is still the best offer, or are there other challengers that are likely to also give you equally good results, right? So this testing mechanism, feedback mechanism is very important to be automatically put, especially at the scale that you want to do hyper-personalization per se, right? And of course, it needs to be in kind of an automated, closed loop to deliver this kind of results. So these are the four aspects. I just want to recap: the analytical modeling, the continuous testing, the personalized experiences, NBX, and what, as you can imagine, this is not, a silver bullet that you can just say, okay, I want to do it one day and it's done next day. It's a journey, and it requires a little bit of aspects that you want to map out in terms of your priorities, whether you want to do action-based personalization, arbitration first, or message-based arbitration first, and then essentially this is how most of our customers look at it from a journey standpoint. That's why I wanted to share this with the audience here as well, right? So when we look at hyper-personalization, what I would say is think about the priorities you have. And we had a session in the morning on the MarTech stack. We saw 40 different solutions in a lot of our customer bases. How can you optimize it or take it to the next level, right? With the stack that you have, with additional components that can probably fire up certain areas in terms of offer personalization, bringing in the analytical modeling, and driving it to a hyper-personalization scale, right? In conclusion, in a little lighter note, while I'm pushing and I'm being a vocal propagator of hyper-personalization, we don't want to arrive at a situation where relationships get strained in a way that, goodbye Harold, I could overlook the Facebook offers and Facebook ads, but it's clear from the Netflix algorithm we are just not compatible, right? So I would not want us to get to that stage. So thank you so much, and here's my LinkedIn scanner code, but I'm around for the next 2 days. If you have any questions, I'm happy to discuss more about the hyper-personalization. Thank you.
Wow. And we've got about 60 seconds. You did very well with your time. If anybody has a question now, raise your hand for Vikrant. Just pop up your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. If not, we'll let him go. There's one right there. Oh, suddenly everyone wants a question. You got one question. Make it a good one.
Shall I? Yeah. Hi. Hi, Vikrant. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very interesting. I'm just curious, when you're talking about these sophisticated kind of information collection, do you do that on CRM level, or how do you integrate it with Google advertising, or you integrate it to every social network or something? Which journey stage do you do this sophistication of customer experience, or to customize, to categorize customers? Are these people are based on, they land on the CRM itself? Do you know who they are because they contacted you or emailed you, or they are reservations? Or do you do that randomly using programmatic display and integrate that, or which stage you're talking about?
So when we talk about hyper-personalization as a concept, most of it works the best when we have a lot of data about our customers, right? And this is at a point when the acquisition is already done, right? And it's been a few months with the brand. But that can also be extrapolated to the acquisition phase. So wherein you do lookalike modeling and push certain audiences, but that's still at a segment level. What we've seen work well and deliver the maximum ROI is post-acquisition for customers, doing this hyper-personalization to cross-sell, to upsell, across the journeys, drive experiences, drive NPS score higher. That's where we've seen the maximum impact of a hyper-personalization scale, because you need to put in place a platform that is automatically scaling, running multiple models to do the hypothesis as marketers that you want, to drive conversions and business goals and business revenue. So that's where we've seen the maximum impact. You got a question? Okay. Mike? Do I have time? Time's up. Last question there.
Last one, yeah.
This is probably a simpler one than the last one, but you mentioned that 78% of conversions were coming from these 32 customer journeys. Can you just shed some light on what the common characteristics of these journeys were?
So I'll give you one example. So when the focus was credit card conversion, what we did is we looked at multiple journeys, and these were automatically formed basis the data that was being collected. One such journey was, for example, transaction happens of the salary credit into the account. Less than 50% of balances remaining after the school education fees are paid. Maximum spend on grocery and essentials category happens few days later. And on few days later, a credit card conversion happens. So this is one such journey. And multiple such journeys were analyzed to find out if a person takes this path, that's when is the right time to push a credit card offer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vikrant. One more time for Vikrant Neogi.